The humid morning air of Metropolis hung heavy around the imposing gates of the Northern Command military base. The sun struggled to break through, casting long, weak shadows across the meticulously maintained grounds. Walking with an effortless, disciplined stride was General Isabella Izzy Vance. Her uniform, a tapestry of sharp lines and gleaming brass, spoke volumes of a career dedicated to sacrifice and unwavering duty. Every ribbon and badge was a footnote in the history of global operations. Yet today, this symbol of unparalleled authority would attract the wrong kind of scrutiny. A routine checkpoint near the base entrance. A base security officer, Officer Ken Miller, an individual whose youth and freshly pressed uniform belied a deep-seated arrogance, eyed her. He offered no salute, no acknowledgement of her rank, a deliberate slight that Alex, accustomed to the formality of military life, immediately registered. He simply regarded her with a look of open disdain, as if she were an anomaly that needed immediate correction. Identification, he demanded, his tone unnecessarily sharp, carrying the false authority of someone overcompensating. Izzy, whose professional instinct was to de-escalate rather than confront, calmly presented her military ID and credentials without a word. Miller glanced at the documents for a single, performative second before a barely suppressed chuckle escaped him. "A general, really?" he asked, his voice laced with incredulity and an unspoken, venomous judgment. "A black woman in this uniform?" Impossible that a small crowd of soldiers and civilian employees nearby paused, their discomfort palpable. Some nervously averted their gaze, while others exchanged anxious glances, witnessing the blatant disrespect. Miller pressed on with his crude display. "I think I'll need to escort you to the security office to verify these," he stated, a clear move to humiliate her further. Izzy remained perfectly still. No one witnessing this petty act of aggression could fathom the cold, strategic mind behind her composed eyes, a mind that had navigated crises that determined the fate of nations. Her lips tightened into a thin line of silence. Her uniform was perfect, her medals brilliant, yet the basic respect due to her rank was being denied by a man whose power was derived only from a temporary title and a badge. Passers-by began to murmur. "They're actually arresting her. Can you believe it?" No one intervened. Some simply raised their phones to record. The injustice was sharp, an army general being openly humiliated by a petty, arrogant officer. Izzy took a calculated step back, maintaining her impeccable composure. Her mind was a whirlwind of training, strategy, and survival. She was ready for any fight, but this battle was against ignorance and prejudice. Seeing her silence, Miller offered a smirk of superiority. "I think you need to learn your place," he muttered, reaching for his radio to call and back up. The tension in the air became physical, almost suffocating. Izzy did not move, did not argue. Her gaze was steady, calm, yet held a weight that seemed to silence the world around them. What was about to unfold was not an escalation, but a quiet, devastating realignment of power, set in motion long before Miller ever saw her. Inside the base, the air of rigid discipline was thick. As Izzy was led toward the central security hub, duty guards instinctively parted, sensing the raw, ineffable authority she possessed. The officer, Miller, now marched beside her, his face a mask of self-importance. "I still don't get why everyone's acting like she's a big deal," Miller grumbled to a colleague, oblivious that his words were clearly heard. The atmosphere was a constant stream of high-ranking officers passing without a glance, recruits moving with nervous precision, and civilian staff juggling tasks. Yet, Izzy's figure stood out, a silent, powerful statement. Her uniform wasn't just fabric, it was a lineage of leadership. While Miller attempted to belittle her, Izzy remained wordless, allowing those around them to perceive what he could not. She controlled the moment with quiet precision. She noted every glance, every hesitant salute, every microaggression, each one a piece on her mental chessboard. A high-ranking colonel, Marcus Thorne, walked past and offered her a small, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture of mutual understanding that only a few sharp observers noticed. Miller stayed blind, convinced his authority was unquestioned. "I need to verify your documents again," he insisted, voice wavering slightly as insecurity cracked through his arrogance. Izzy finally raised her eyes. Her calm, piercing gaze cut through the air like a silent command. What the officer and the gathering crowd did not know was that she was not just a general. She was general of the Combined Operations Joint Task Force, a position so classified that her true authority remained invisible until absolutely necessary. Around her, subtle slights continued. Whispers questioned her gender, race, and legitimacy. A clerk muttered about the rarity of a black woman holding such rank. Izzy heard every word, yet maintained her composure, absorbing prejudice not as pain but as information. A young recruit, Private Jensen, approached nervously and offered her a crisp salute. Izzy returned a slight nod. Respect, she believed, could never be demanded. It was earned and recognized. Miller, fueled by ego and ignorance, delivered his fatal mistake. "Do you really think anyone here is going to listen to you?" he sneered. Izzy's silence was deliberate, a heavy pause before the power shift. Then, a sharp metallic sound cut through the tension. A gold-plated command seal was placed on a nearby desk, deliberately positioned under a security camera. It bore not only the insignia of a four-star general, but the secret stamp of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, with direct clearance to the Department of Defense and the Citadel. Miller's arrogance shattered instantly. He froze, realizing too late who stood before him. Izzy stepped forward, her uniform gleaming under the lights, every medal representing sacrifice and leadership. The room fell into absolute silence. "I called this gathering for one reason," she began, her voice steady and authoritative. "The chaos you witnessed is not incompetence. It is ignorance and prejudice." Miller stumbled back, his face burning with humiliation. "For years, I have served this nation with honor. Every mission, every sacrifice has been in the service of its safety. Yet today I was stopped because of my skin and gender." She unbuttoned her tunic, revealing an engraved plaque of the Combined Operations Joint Task Force, an authority higher than any base security. The camera captured the moment, the metallic flash, the collective gasp, and Miller's collapse of confidence. "You call me suspicious," Izzy said, calm but firm. "The world calls me Commander Vance." An absolute silence followed. Soldiers snapped to attention, offering disciplined salutes. Miller lowered his gaze, defeated. Within moments, encrypted confirmation from the Citadel arrived, verifying her presence and demanding swift disciplinary action. The officer was escorted away, his career finished. Izzy turned to the base commander. "I do not require an apology. I require that this never happens again." The video went viral worldwide. Izzy became a symbol of dignity under pressure and the strength found in restraint. Days later, she refused the Pentagon's offer of a ceremonial apology and instead organized a mandatory forum titled The Invisible Value, held at the very checkpoint where she had been stopped. She walked onto the stage wearing a civilian suit. No medals, no rank insignia. She stood firmly and began without notes. "There is no uniform that automatically grants respect," she said. "Respect cannot be imposed. It must be recognized." The crowd listened intently. She turned to Miller, stripped of his badge and awaiting reassignment. "Officer, stand up." He hesitated but obeyed. "When you detained me, what did you see?" she asked. "I saw someone suspicious," he muttered. "No," she said gently. "You saw someone who did not look like you." Miller remained silent, shame heavy on his shoulders. Izzy concluded, "Power is not demonstrated by shouting or intimidation. True power is the ability to look at someone different from you and still recognize them as human." The room erupted in a long, heartfelt ovation. The nation watched. That same night, the Pentagon announced the Vance Protocol, a sweeping reform targeting racial bias and detention procedures across all branches of the military. Officer Miller was officially removed from his post and voluntarily accepted reassignment to a community training program in underserved areas, attempting to transform his mistake into a lesson. Izzy, alone in her office that evening, watched his interview. She allowed herself a small, unburdened smile. She had not sought revenge. She had pursued change. Weeks later, the place where she had been detained was officially renamed the Vance Zone, serving as a permanent reminder that dignity must never be optional. Justice for General Isabella Vance did not arrive with anger or force. It arrived with steady resolve, quiet strength, and the unshakable certainty of someone who knew her worth, even when others failed to see it.